the loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Greetings from just off Orwell Lane. Invincible is a lot like a 90s boy band. It didn't come together naturally out of an idea or a passion for a concept that was feverishly worked upon until it was honed to a fine edge. It wasn't a grand concept that was forged in the fires of trial and error over the years of grinding out that concept. It was formed by the publisher, Image Comics. Specifically, it was formulated up out of the ether following a request from the director of Image Comics, Jim Valentino. Valentino desperately wanted a cape book. Well, he actually wanted 5 cape books at the time, but for now we're just going to focus on Invincible. After a failed pitch for a comic book that they had called Science Dog, which entertainingly enough would become the name of the main character in Invincible's favorite comic book, Valentino challenged Kirkman and Grayson to come up with a cape concept that they felt would work. Now, in the years since Invincible's debut, Kirkman has claimed that he was always a fan of teen superheroes. But given the requirements that Valentino had supposedly placed on the new titles that he was looking for, and the failed pitch for Science Dog, here on the farm we tend to believe it's more likely that it was just done to capture the green light for this series as far as the tone of Invincible goes. Now, Corey and Kirkman, they brainstormed some ideas walking out of this meeting with Valentino, and they decided on a framework that they thought would actually be fairly original. And by original, I mean it's built upon almost every comic trope that there was at the time that you could possibly beg, borrow, or steal from. The Grayson family is at the heart of the story. The son, Mark Grayson, is essentially the reader's point of view character. The mother is Deborah Grayson, and the father is Nolan Grayson. And Nolan is also the superhero Omni-Man, who is also an alien called the Veltrumites. Now, it's pretty much a faux Superman. And you also have in the series, you've got a stand-in for the Justice League and a stand-in for the Teen Titans. It really is it's a rinse and reuse operation almost from the start. Now, Mark Grayson, being the son of Nolan or Omni-Man, begins to experience the development of his powers very early in the series. And there is the overtrod story of a teenager finding their way through the world with superpowers and being guided by the role model. In this case, his father, Omni-Man. Some of that works very well. Some of it doesn't. What you end up with is the first 10 issues of Invincible are pedantic and almost boring, as they set up a very sanitary world build. And while you get the ever so faint impression, and we're talking beyond Zack Snyder's use of slow motion faint impression here, there's something more coming. The story just doesn't seem to engage on all cylinders. Then something happens. And in issue 11, you get a twist that turns that slow build, pedantic, sanitary story into a raging fire that arguably continues throughout most of the rest of the series. Main characters perish and do not come back, and villains and heroes constantly change sides as situations dictate. Invincible is a different take. That it should be noted with positivity is not in the deconstructionist vein, and in that regard, Kirkman and Corey do great work. Here on the farm, though, we could just never get into the book, as it always felt like there was a barrier of, for lack of a better term, emo angst that was built up between what could have very well been an engaging story and the deeply steep melodrama that rose from almost every other page at times. All 145 issues of Invincible, 0 through 144, carry a minor recommendation from us here on the farm. You can find a lot worse, and there aren't too many runs that are superior, at least full runs. Invincible ran from January of 2003 until February of 2018. It was published by Image Comics, written by Robert Kirkman, co-created by Corey Walker, who was the artist, with occasionally Ryan Otley stepping in on it. I am Aldous on the Farm. Thank you for listening to my brief review of Invincible by Image Comics.